Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Really quick look at an ink today. We're looking at a Robert Oster from the inkArt.ink line. This is Velvet Storm. Now please excuse the ink on my hands. Badge of honour I know, but I got 2 bottles of ink from another brand in the mail today and the caps were loose on both of them, so I'm sporting ink. Anyway, but today's ink, Velvet Storm. This is what we're looking at. Beautiful sort of what I call a black teal sort of colour. It's a really rich, dark, greeny teal. And as you can see, I got it here in the 15ml bottle from the inkArt.ink line. Now the inkArt.ink line differs slightly from the signature line in that it's designed for more purposes other than writing. So it's got things like UV protection built in so that it can be used for art and sketching and all that sort of stuff as well. Now, this is a pretty unique colour. One other ink came out last year that I think really matches it, and that is Lamy Petrol. So if you're familiar with petrol, this is a really interesting sort of comparison. If you couldn't get your hands on petrol, then actually Velvet Storm is a pretty decent match, and it performs beautifully in pens. This inkArt.ink line is designed to be safe for fountain pens as well as for other purposes. 2 other inks that I thought were interesting to look at sort of as comparisons in a way. Firstly, Noodler Zhivago, which is sort of another sort of green-black, a sort of more darky green. And then Australian Bush from the Sense of Australia line by Blackstone. Just so you can see the difference between sort of greeny, dark green olive inks and the Velvet Storm here. All well and good to look at it on the card. Let's now look at it in some tests. So here is a page of Rhodia dot paper, Rhodia 80-gram paper, lined in this case, and I had it in 2 different Lamy pens, a broad and an extra fine, just to give a sense of the different sort of colours that come through. So as you can see on the paper, there's a lot of shading in this ink. It's really lovely. There is a bit of sheen, and this is Rhodia, of course. You don't get a lot of sheen in the writing, but you do pick it up on the swabs and things like that, although that's not practical for everyday use. It's a mid-dry ink. I would certainly never say this ink was wet. Some Robert Oster inks can be very, very wet. Eucalyptus leaf, for instance, is quite a wet ink. This one is a little drier, and I think that comes out more in the broader nibs you use it in than in the finer nibs. It does look great in any nib, and sort of the broader nibs allowing for some of that beautiful shading. It performs well. There's very little bleed or feathering. It's just a really well behaved ink with, as I said, lots and lots of shading. Cleans beautifully out of pens. This inkArt.ink line really does clean very, very well. And generally it's a really well behaved ink. So let's have a quick look at a water test, and then we'll do a quick wrap up. So you can see there a lot of the ink has already moved on the paper. If I just dab that up, yeah, we've lost a lot of the detail, a lot of the lines. There is a little bit sort of holding back in there, but it's really not a water resistant ink. Let's have a quick look at it on some other paper before we sum up here. So here it is on Tomwell River paper in the 2 nibs. You get a little bit of sheen just occasionally sort of in a halo, particularly actually from the finer nib in this case, but it's pretty lovely, rich sort of colour, and as you can see, performs really well. And then here it is on some basic sort of copier paper, Reflex 80-gram paper here. Once again, well behaved, no feathering, no spreading, nothing like that, and no bleeding. It dries fairly quickly. It is a drier ink, but it's really well behaved, and it's actually really lovely to write with. I've had this ink in a custom Pilot Custom 74, and it writes beautifully. I've had this in assorted Lamy pens and a couple of other pens, and I've never had a pen this ink didn't write nicely in. So it is a really well behaved ink. Water resistance is not a factor with this ink. It's not designed for that. In fact, these inkArt.ink lines are designed to be more water soluble, I think, so that they can be used for water brushes and that sort of application. So yeah, I really, really think this is a great ink. It's beautiful, it's well behaved. These Robert Oster inks are affordable. All the packaging is environmentally friendly, and they're an Australian brand, and so we get behind them from that point of view as well. So if you haven't tried this ink, give it a whirl. I'd love to know your thoughts, and as I said, if you missed out on Lamy Petrol, then this is actually a really, really great option if you're wanting to go something in that color range. Hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notifications button if you want to stay up to date with the videos that I produce. Please drop me a message either here or on any of my social media platforms, which are all linked down below. And yeah, if you've got any products you'd like me to look at, or if you've got questions, feel free to get in touch. In the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy your ink, and I'll talk to you later.